Hello friends and welcome back to Oscar's Cozy Corner. With just 1 week to go before the release of the Storybook Vale, I thought that it could be fun today to revisit some of the very first leaks that were found for the DLC back in September and compare what was found then against what we know now. There were only a handful of leaks at the time, and most of these do seem to have been covered in the showcase since then, but I will throw up a little spoiler warning just in case. As always, I just want to give a huge shout out to the leakers over on the Dreamlight Leaks Discord for finding and sharing these. If you're interested in any leaks relating to Dreamlight Valley or Disney Speedstorm, then be sure to head on over and join in with what is always a warm and welcoming community, and you can find the link down in the description below. With that being said, let's see if we can connect any dots or even just spot what those leaked files could have been referencing ahead of next week's launch. So first up, this was kind of like a two-in-one. This small batch of audio leaks actually gave us the name of the DLC and our very first glimpse at the 3 biomes that we will be getting. So aside from anything else that was found, I do suspect that this leak was the one that kind of gave Gameloft a little bit of a heart in the mouth moment, as they were swiftly removed in the following update. But as you can see here, each one of these audio leaks were prefixed with Storybook Vale, giving us our first morsel of information regarding the expansion, and then they were sort of grouped by biome after that. I do find it interesting that the names were left fairly generic at this point, but just seeing mythology and fairy tale created some real hype for what we could be getting, to which we obviously now know that the library would be the bind, mythology would become Mythopia, and fairy tale was referring to ever after. As I mentioned, these are audio files, but they're mostly just environmental sounds, wind, rain, some kind of vague animal noises and the like. But let me play you just a couple of seconds of some of these over the footage we already have from the showcase. And let's see if we can immerse you in what we might potentially be hearing in a week's time. So I'll start with the bind. So the bind clips, or the library as it was initially labeled, are pretty standard. There's some wind, some bird noises, and some running water. I was really unsure what the water could have been back when I made my very first leaks video, and to be honest, I'm still not totally convinced that I know what it is. If I were to throw a guess out based on the footage we have, then it would probably be this fountain. However, it does sound more like a bubbling cauldron, so there might be something else in the bind that we haven't seen yet, or maybe it's even part of some quest, or maybe I'm wrong and it is just this fountain. But moving on to Mythopia. Pretty general again, mostly just environmental noises and some birdsong in the background. Unfortunately, no other files were found before they were removed, so there are still some surprises to come at least. And finally, Ever After. Now, this is an interesting one to me because even though these files are labeled as fairy tale, which we know to be ever after, 10 out of 11 of these audio files are actually owl noises. I do think that they're going for a darker, spookier vibe with this biome, and what having sounds like distant owls can be a contributing factor to that. I will give them that. I just find it interesting that it's actually the bind that is getting owl companions while ever after is getting dragons. Not that it's a big deal, and I think they just wanted to create an eerier feel here, and owl noises do have that essence to them, especially kind of like at nighttime, so I just thought it was something funny to highlight. Moving on to the second half of the leaks from September, a number of file names were found that referenced quests. Now, if the audio files gave us the DLC name, then it was these files that kind of triggered the initial speculation of characters and who would be coming, because a number of characters are directly referenced here by name. What I did want to point out here is that one of these is not like the rest. So the first one in the list is actually called Story Expansion 02 MRQS_E02_091_ Trial Colossus. I didn't need to read out the whole name, I just wanted to see if I could do it. Now, we didn't know what trial meant back when this first came out, but now we obviously know that we will be taking part in trials in Storybook Vale, and it does seem as though this will be part of the new feature. The word Colossus makes it feel like a really big event. Now, don't get me wrong, there's every chance that it isn't. It's just the particular wording that makes it feel that way. I couldn't find any specific reference to Colossus as a word or a noun within the Disneyverse without delving too deep into some very obscure spin-offs, so I feel like this is probably a Gameloft original and probably some sort of original storyline. But either way, it does make the trials sound very exciting, and I am looking forward to trying them out. No pun intended. As for the other names from this batch, they do follow the same structure of quest, tail number, IP number or placeholder, and then name. Now, we do know from the Storybook Vale Steam page that a struggle for power between the Mistress of All Evil and the Lord of the Underworld tore the Vale apart. Ink spilled all over the land and tales were scattered to the winds, now lost in the form of mythical creatures made of paper called snippets. We've already seen the ink in the new showcase, and we did get our first glimpse at snippets and how we'll be putting the new royal tool to use to catch them. But it's also confirmed in that Steam description that the tales were scattered to the wind from the Lawkeeper, which actually make up those origami critters called snippets. So just to clarify, the snippets are the little origami animals, and then the tails are what were ripped out of the Lawkeeper's pages to actually become those snippets. So they're technically the same thing, just in different forms. We also know from the Dreamlight Valley social accounts that catching these is key to solving the tapestry puzzles, which is kind of the new minigame found in this DLC. I have already covered these tapestries in my other videos, but I have seen players asking whether we'll be getting a handful or whether we'll only be getting one of each for the IPs featured in the DLC. But I think based on these leaks that we'll be catching snippets to use as part of the tapestry minigame, as well as catching them as and when quests require. I think that because we can see that the ones titled Once Upon a Time, Origin of the Feud, and Aurora Sacred Spring all have quests at the beginning. It may be the case that we have to capture a specific or rare snippet as part of or in order to start these quests. And I think that would make sense given what we know about Maleficent and Hades, as well as their roles and storyline within this DLC. As for the other names, they have default at the start rather than quest, and they have generic franchises at the end. So to me, this says that we are going to be receiving tapestries for all of these IPs. At least I hypothesize that is the case, especially as we see the Sorcerer's Apprentice in there, which is referring to Mickey, the tapestry that we saw in the trailer. I actually think that's really exciting, as it means we could be getting additional franchises like The Lion King, Frozen, Lilo and Stitch. Plus, these appear to be original artworks created by Gameloft rather than the movie screenshots, like the memories in the base game, which is a really nice touch. Alright friends, that just about wraps up our revisit of those early leaks for the Storybook Vale. I did tell you that there was only a handful, however, I thought that it was fun to take a look at what we had and what we have now and see if there's any crossover and how we can link the two. But if you did enjoy this video, then don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button if you're not already part of our cozy little corner. There's so much more to come with this DLC, and I will be here with all of the updates, guides, and Dreamlight Valley chats that I can possibly fit in. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. What do you think about these leaks based on what we know now? And what are you most excited to explore in the Vale? Until next time, take care, I will catch you in the next one, and I will, of course, see you in the Valley.